My name is Andrii Kovalenko. I'm an executive director of the Academy of Ukrainian Press. It's an independent, non-profit, non-governmental organization that inspires media education, key initiatives, and professional retraining of journalists in Ukraine. Since 2014, in the hot phase of the war on Donbass, we conduct 418 activities for regional journalists in this region. We also have a program of press tours to Ukraine, Kiev, and Donbass as part of the project with the US Embassy. So more than 120 European journalists have visited Ukraine since 2018. I was at home in Kiev at 4:45 a.m. I woke up because it was explosions. Immediately, I understand that it was a war began, but I couldn't believe it. I looked at my phone and saw several messages from journalists' friends saying that the war had started. And I began waking up my wife, explaining to her that the war had started. At first, she didn't even believe it and told me to go back to sleep. I went to a petrol station and filled a full tank in my car. There was already a big queue. Later, foreign colleagues started contacting with me. There was many of them, and I had for that day maybe 12 interviews. At the first, we have mobilization of the men from 18 to 60 years old. They can't believe the country is the first. But the first thing I had to deal with was the safety of my family. My wife didn't want to leave me. I made a huge effort to persuade her to abroad with the children. Once I was able to do this, I put them in a car and drove them to the border with Poland. Leaving them with the car, I drove back to Kiev. They are safe now in Krakow. Back in Kiev, I started working with foreign journalists. For today, there we have been 12 journalists from different countries working in Ukraine since the war started. We just helped them to make objective materials. Last time, especially since the start of the COVID pandemic, I have had administrative work and media management work. Like now, I'm working in the field like a journalist. I have for today, I have traveled since the beginning of the war over 5,000 kilometers with foreign journalists and visited quite a few hotspots. Maybe from the west to the east. I was in many different cities, many different locations. I have seen everything: destruction, grief, death, destroyed cities, a sea of refugees from occupied cities. But at the same time, I saw the high moral of the military, and I saw a really united society. A president who was able to stand up to the empire, to Putin's empire. Putin has did what no one of the presidents of Ukraine been able to do in Ukraine for 30 years. He has consolidated and united our society. You have just understand that this is a war in which the enemy kills everyone without distinction, women and children, or militaries or journalists. They don't care. Journalists are sorely lacking the elements of protection: helmets, bulletproof vests, and maybe the first aid kits. And one of the biggest problem, I think that, but we will decide with this problem after the war. It a very big pressure for your for your psychic. It's hard to see that in your country many of people that such destruction and other, it's very hard to understand. My goal is that all the world has to see what is happening in Ukraine right now, but information have to be objectively, truthfully, and by journalistic standards. You have to understand that this is the war, but for the most parts, I think yes, but only when professional journalists work in us, it's quite possible, I think, yes. I think that all the people in the world have to understand that we are Ukrainians, we are peaceful nation, you know. We are not Nazis, we are not like, you know, barbarians. We are a really peaceful nation, and we do not want this war, but it can come in our houses, and we do not want to live by Putin's regime, and we will defend and we will fight for our independence, you know, and for our nation, because it's really now it's a genocide of Ukrainian nation.